71-year-old Charles thought he knew his wife like the back of his hand. But when he was going through Ellen's stuff after the funeral, he found a box of receipts in her jewelry case that turned his whole world upside down. What had Ellen been hiding for 44 years? Why would a woman who could barely send an email suddenly have a secret online account? And here's the kicker. Why was she selling the most sacred things from their life together? $200? $150? $120? Small amounts that added up to thousands of dollars. Money her husband knew nothing about. But when Charles started digging deeper, he realized this wasn't just betrayal. This was a rescue mission that took years to pull off. Ellen was dying, and she was setting up her husband's escape from a trap she'd helped create. The only question is, can you forgive someone for breaking your heart to save your life? And the final twist will make you question everything you thought you knew about marriage. Charles Jackson rapped his knuckles against the fridge door, 3 sharp taps like Ellen taught him. Engines need attention, Charlie, or they'll sulk. Her laughter still rang louder than the ticking cuckoo clock in the empty house. Morning ritual complete. Teeth brushed over the compressor's whine. 12 sink-side squats completed wheezing, red Bic pen leaving a blotch on the crossword. Today's 23-down answer, nostalgia. He'd circled 5 times as his lips formed betrayal instead. The basement smelled of mildew and old fluid dynamics textbooks. Charles reached for the Christmas lights box, but the rotting bottom gave way, spilling photo albums across the concrete. A silver ribbon unwound from one, revealing a ticket stub's corner. Columbia River Cruise, 2 passengers, June 14th, 1985. His hand trembled touching the grainy paper. They'd never sailed. Ellen got spooked by flood warnings on the news. "How much crap did you squirrel away down here?" he muttered, pulling a blue envelope from beneath their 1977 wedding photo. Ellen's lupus script danced on notebook paper. "Doctors say we need drier air, but you love this old place. Forgive me for not telling." November 2019, a year before lockdowns, 2 before her lungs gave out. Charles pressed a palm to the cold foundation wall, suddenly aware of his ragged breath. Not the asthma this time. The oxygen-starved air seemed to rise from the basement's depths, where more than spiders had festered for decades. A flattened Godiva box overflowed with receipts. eBay sales. $45 for the first Yosemite trip photos. $120 for the hospital snapshot after the miscarriage. $200 for the wedding portrait. Charles yanked the 1992 tape measure, the one that once tracked his waistline, off its nail and hurled it. The glass vial shattered, showering glass over envelopes marked New Boat Fund. Each held crumpled 20s and coins from her secret sales. Upstairs, the garage door groaned, "Mr. Jackson, we're losing daylight. Cement trucks stuck on Sunrise Boulevard." Realtor Catherine's voice always reminded him of screen doors needing WD-40. Charles tripped over the water meter crate climbing into sunlight. A crane loomed over the fence, hoisting steel beams for condos. 2 months ago, this was their hideout. Blackberry bushes and a stump where Ellen knitted while he fished. Now, Lake Tahoe's shores were closed under wildfire haze, and his own lungs carried permanent ash. "You're pricing this place like a foreclosure. The senior haven folks already—" Catherine adjusted her cat-eye glasses, flipping through paperwork on her F-150's hood. "Selling as is. 30% off for quick close." He tossed the deed folder onto the seat where Ellen's first aid kit once lived. "But the retirement community brochures—" Save the pamphlets for folks rubbing arthritis cream into the jittery hands. Catherine peeled out, slamming her door hard enough to knock an hearing aid case off the shelf. Inside, no device, just nitro pills. Charles pocketed it, fumbling for his inhaler. Gotta hit Walgreens, he thought, watching sweat bloom on Ellen's note like ink blots. At the funeral, the lawyer showed the transfer papers. Her signature wobbled, like that day she'd tried explaining why Grandma's brooch was gone. The money later funneled into a cruise that never sailed. At dusk, Charles wandered into the garage. The 1968 Seafarer gleamed under a humming LED shop light. His first purchase from her hidden stash. His fingers traced the hull, pausing at the anchor scar from the Barrow 3 storm. Ellen had cowered below deck that night, but next morning gifted him engraved navigator's watches. Your safe harbor. A cell phone's buzz cut the silence. Unknown number, Oregon area code. Confirming your Astoria cabin rental for the 14th? Deposit. Yes. Charles interrupted, staring at the Columbia River map above the workbench. A red X marked the fishing village where someone posted their old boat's photo last month. Previous tenants might have left furniture. Trash it all. I'm traveling light. Night rain drummed the roof like marbles in the attic. Charles laid receipts across the Formica table, a solitaire of betrayal. Sales began in 2016, the year of his first heart attack. Pension drained into pill bottles while Ellen ordered double cheese pizzas every Thursday, though he hated mozzarella. The saved bills, 5s, 10s, one wrinkled Benjamin with Happy Father's Day in crayon, finally made sense. 3 years ago, he'd commissioned the Seafarer's restoration. Why? She'd asked halfway through chemo curls. We don't even... Just because. The receipt dates now matched clinic visits and her sudden migraines. Why? Charles rasped, tearing down the international flags calendar. November 2021 bore a red circle around garage code, and her scribbled, "Tell C about Astoria." She hadn't. Turned their home into a museum of ghosts while the virus ate her lungs. The autopsy showed a metastasis she'd kept hidden. At dawn, as neighbors dragged trash cans to curbs, Charles loaded 2 suitcases and a charred footlocker. Ellen's favorite chair had burned cerulean last fall. "Take me to Oregon, you old fool," the ashes whispered, clinging to his flannel. Last into the U-Haul went the wedding portrait receipt, her handwriting on back. "Forgive me, I wanted to set you free." "Cheap at twice the price," he muttered, shredding it. Wind carried the pieces past bulldozers toward the distant glint of Pacific waves. The cab reeked of wet dog. A mutt with salt and pepper eyebrows curled on the passenger seat. The shelter next door left the gate unlatched again. A hand-stamped tag read, "Jonah, not for kids." The beast sighed, nosing the nitro roll in his pocket. In the rear view, Ellen's house shrank to matchstick dimensions as Charles merged onto I-80. The rusty initialed anchor clanked in back, growling deeper than her final whisper. Charles ran his tongue over chapped lips, straining to be heard over the wind whistling through the cracked window. Jonathan fidgeted in the passenger seat, his damp nose smudging the fishing spot map Ellen had annotated years ago. Every third pickup truck with Green Valley Constructions decals swerving onto the shoulder made Charles's knuckles bleach white on the steering wheel. These were the same corporate vultures who'd built condos over their old property, now blocking the highway with concrete barriers. The first asthma attack hit near Shasta Bridge. Jonathan whined at the wheezing in Charles's chest, before he'd even recognized the tightness. One hand fumbled for the inhaler in his flannel shirt pocket, while the other automatically scratched the shepherd's scruff. "Good boy. That's my good." The hiss of medication merged with car horns as traffic stalled behind police tape and spinning red-blue lights. A blue '87 Ford F-150 was being winched from the ditch, same model he'd borrowed for his wedding day. Charles closed his eyes against the memory that struck like live wire. Ellen perched on the hood in her lace dress, laughing as he struggled with his tie. "Just lose it, Charlie. We're already hitched," her voice overriding the ambulance siren. When he blinked, the crash scene showed an insurance adjuster snapping photos with a telephoto lens. "Hey, Gramps," a shout from a passing Honda Civic snapped him back. "You're much making a break for it." Jonathan was trotting across 3 lanes toward a Burger King dumpster, lured by fryer grease smells. Charles lunged out, barely grabbing the dog's collar before semi-truck tires screeched. "Son of a bitch!" The trucker spat Copenhagen out his window as Jonathan, tail tucked, dragged Charles toward trash bags leaking ketchup packets. "You can't scare kids, but junk food's fair game." Charles knelt, prying a plastic fork from the dog's jaws. His fingers brushed embroidered cloth, one of Ellen's picnic napkins with their entwined initials. The drive-through meal cost $14.23. Jonathan begged burger scraps while Charles scrolled eBay alerts on his smartphone. "Urgent. Lot number 214, a family portrait aboard Seafarer, 1984. High bid $60. Seller in Astoria." She's everywhere, you know. Charles massaged his sinuses as the dog sniffed an empty Coke cup. "Sold off our life, then makes me bid for scraps, like some damn poker debt." The "Buy It Now" button shimmered. $320 Claudin checking might cover the photo, but leave them stranded before Oregon. His hand moved on its own toward the Visa card hidden in Ellen's engraved Dream Fund wallet. Diesel fumes blended with ocean roar as they entered Astoria on day 7. Jonathan nosed condensation trails on the windshield, tracking gulls. Charles checked Ellen's crumpled letter against the GPS. 1402 Marine View Drive revealed a sagging cottage with a weathered boat repairs and broken hearts sign. The porch groaned like storm-tossed decking, the key stuck in the lock, probably frozen since '98. Mildew hit first, kelp, damp sheetrock, and stale Marlboros. Jonathan sneezed, refusing to cross the threshold. "Home, sweet home?" Charles kicked a PBR can under the stairs. A clean rectangle on the wallpaper marked where their boat photo had hung before the auction. "Wouldn't need to rebuy memories without your games, Ellen." His phone buzzed. "Lot No. 214 purchased. Delivery, Columbia River Museum, 2nd Street, 5 p.m. The museum was a Quonset hut with cracked plexiglass dome. The shawl-wrapped volunteer at intake recognized him instantly. "Mr. Jackson, your wife prepaid the display case through 2028. She handed over the framed seafarer photo, Ellen's postscript on back. "Forgive the ambush. Knew you'd pause at a maritime exhibit." Charles braced against the counter as crimson spots clouded his vision. His inhaler remained in the van while Jonathan, tied outside, howled in sync with his panic attack. Home again, the photo's cardboard backing concealed a safe deposit key. Ellen's note, "Forgive the lie. Had to steal our past to save your future. Time to rebuild." Neighbors who heard his swearing called cops. 2 hours of explanations, stale station coffee and document checks drained him more than the cross-country drive. Sergeant Hayes, requesting an autograph on his '83 hydrology textbook, advised, Watch that shepherd. Rocky County dogfighters target big breeds. That night, Jonathan growled at footsteps crunching gravel. Charles gripped a washing machine hose like a bat, squinting into darkness where a hooded figure rummaged through Ellen's storage bins. "Get the hell out!" His shout dissolved into wheezing. The inhaler clattered from trembling fingers as the intruder fled. Jonathan gave chase, returning with blooded denim in his teeth. Morning brought Animal Control's gut punch. Shelter records listed Jonathan as deceased since 2022. Ellen had forged cremation papers to smuggle him out post-diagnosis. Bought you as a living charm? Charles examined fake vet records, fingers working behind the dog's ears. Dawn light revealed scars mapping their marriage's road trips across Jonathan's brindle fur. Packing halted at the knock. A woman in a Land's End jumpsuit held a Golden Years Foundation folder. "Mr. Jackson, your wife secured our Platinum Care package contingent on remaining in California. She offered termination papers. But given your persistence, we'll refund 70% if you forfeit the boat." His laugh mutated into coughing. Jonathan howled along with each rasp. "Tell your lawyers." Charles crushed the documents into the recycling bin, labeled "Yard Waste Only." "My wife taught me to bury treasure deeper than bank accounts." The final blow came via newspaper headline. Their youthquake photo with the seafarer, sold then rebought, now mocked in "Collectors Gone Crazy." Ex-friends clustered outside the editorial office pointing at his house. Jonathan licked his palm, an Ellen calming tactic. Maybe that's why he leashed up and walked toward the pier instead of retaliating. Drizzle blurred river into sky. On the rotting dock, some kid was crabbing with gear resembling what Charles built for his niece before the estrangement. "Got one!" The boy yanked his line, but the trap snapped free. Charles grabbed a gaff hook without thinking. 2 minutes wrestling current brought up a rusted box stamped C+E. Whoa! Pirate treasure? The museum key fit perfectly. Inside, wax paper bundles held letters. Ellen's final note quivered. "If you're reading this, you finally sailed." Jonathan yanked the leash toward water. Charles stumbled, dropping letters into a puddle. Ink bled until only "Thank you for freedom" remained. They returned to find burglars loading Ellen's photo archive. Jonathan chomped a thief's leg until the gunshot scattered gulls. Charles cradled his whimpering dog as cops arrived. The blooded collar held a microchip tracing to Portland Oncology, where Ellen underwent chemo. Final entry: Lolo 3/17/2020. Patient insists activate chip only upon husband's demise. "We'll find them, old-timer." Sergeant Hayes squeezed his shoulder. Charles shook free. The museum's call revealed hidden compartment, yellowed 2023 cruise tickets, and printouts of Ellen's emails. "Charles won't survive another smog season. Save him by any means." Rain intensified, washing away evidence. Charles rocked Jonathan's still form on the stoop, muttering, "Hold on, buddy. She couldn't have planned." But the shepherd's tremors had stopped. Charles hadn't noticed when the rain soaked through his jacket. His hand kept stroking Jonathan's cooling fur, repeating the motion Ellen used to calm their first dog after thunderstorms. Gunshot tinnitus still rang in his ears, that muffled, cowardly sound leaving no echo. Sergeant Hayes tried steering him under the awning, but Charles's legs might as well have taken root through the cracked concrete. "Animal Control's en route, Mr. Jackson. Maybe if—" "Don't." The voice sounded alien, crackling like their old Victrola. She wove dead dogs into storylines, too. Fingers found the microchip beneath the collar. Its blinking red light mirrored the fridge bulb Ellen always left on for midnight snacks. Activate upon husband's death. This scalding truth overpowered grief. Ellen had banked on him dying first, on being gone before Betrayal's puzzle pieces clicked. At dawn, when they took Jonathan's body, Charles found a key under the dog's pillow. Not their safe deposit box key, but a brass one, like those Ellen kept in her Barnum's Animal Crackers tin. The attached tag bore coordinates 4060-1121N, 123-49-11W. His wife's annotated river maps showed the spot 3 miles downstream from the dock where the Columbia plunges 70 feet deep. Sergeant Hayes returned with photos recovered from burglars. Your wife sure knew how to squirrel away secrets. He tapped a battered envelope labeled, "For the Captain." These assholes tried torching it first. The satin ribbon whispered open. Inside lay Ellen's 2018 2020 chemo records and letters to an Astoria doctor. Charlie'll fight for this house till his last breath. If my plans hold, the river cottage becomes his safe harbor. If not, contingency coordinates enclosed. Hands trembled, dropping pages. Ellen had blueprinted his Sacramento exodus like a hostage extraction op. The museum volunteer dragged in soup, gesturing at storage boxes. Paid 10 years up front, wanted you to discover things gradual-like. Unpacking became archaeological excavation. Beneath Kodachrome stacks, a 70s concert ticket album with favorite songs circled. Pliers engraved Heart Surgeon, her gag gift for his 50th. And a diary bound in Bible covers where every neighbor's obit included pie recipes. Holy hell! Charles pressed palms against Ellen's infertility entry. Doctor says I can't carry. How tell Charlie? He dreamed of teaching a son sailor's knots. Below ran orphanage contacts headed Potential Options 78. A city hall trip for renovation. Permits detonated new ordnance. Ellen had bought the cottage in 2016. The fishing co-op lease, pure fiction. Play-acting God, Charles muttered, scanning deeds. Building my paradise while rotting inside. The photo studio offered $500 for film reels. He'd nearly taken the check when a puppy photo caught his eye. Jonathan's adoption date matching Ellen's diagnosis. Einstein said God doesn't play dice, he rasped, clutching the forged vet papers. But you, darling, went all in on death's poker game. Reality ambushed him at Home Depot. The clerk spun Ellen's supply list. Skinny gal with the blue-ribboned sun hat? Ordered roof sealant back in 19. Asked about flame retardants twice. Driving home, Charles detoured to the microchip coordinates. GPS led to derelict docks where waves slapped rusty pylons. Ellen's waterlogged photos in his pocket demanded return to the river per instructions. Jonathan would have barked sense into him. Alone now, Charles tested the brass key against every plank. At sunset, it clicked in a hidden locker beneath the boardwalk. A 1982 ship's log fell open. At Jackson E., miscarriage, 8 weeks. Margin notes quivered. Charlie blames himself. Remove reminders. Attached receipts proved Ellen donated their dead collie to a lab instead of burying it. The root cellar reeked of mildew and might-have-beens. Charles spread evidence across the workbench. Diaries, letters, fading snapshots. Ellen's matchstick seafarer replica stood guard, engine painted like his favorite flannel shirt. You built a whole damn universe of lies, he whispered, trashing Senior Living Fund paperwork. But I'm not soldiering in your army. The mouse click echoed like gunfire. His eBay listing read, "Vintage family photos. Price, one truth." Portland attorneys responded in 2 hours. Their lavender-scented office mirrored Ellen's sachets. The suit-clad woman handed over cream stationery. "Dearest Charlie, if you're reading this, I win. You're safe now. My ghost's unshackled. Auction money's yours. Burn them, gift them, whatever. Don't seek meaning where there's only a scared woman's love. Your Ellen." The 87 times $5 $30 check lay heavy, enough for 3 new charters. Flipside showed their house vents marked "Change Filters, Dummy." Cottage renovations began with air purification systems. The neighbor kid hauling boxes asked, "You're that auction guy? Mom says your wife had the whole town wrapped around her finger." "Still does." Charles gestured at letters. "Dead outplay the living, kid." Museum crates arrived one foggy evening. Among glass negatives, Charles found civil defense envelopes. 1983. Sacramento flood warnings advising relocation. Ellen had highlighted Astoria in neon marker. Cement mixer growl merged with ship horns outside. The yard revived gradually. Flowers in Folgers cans repainted Charlie's repair sign, doghouse matching Jonathan's collar. Sergeant Hayes froze at the threshold with apology papers. "You're turning this place into a home?" Charles adjusted Ellen's wall portrait. "No, a mooring." He pinned their final photo to the river map. Young lovers laughing aboard the Seafarer with their collie pup. Backside read, "Sold for $1 terms. New captain must chart fresh course." Salty wind fluttered the unfinished logbook. Charles grabbed red ink, scrawling, "Ellen Jackson. Final voyage. Dawn. Door creaks. Interrupted." A dock kid stood there, tugging a deaf collie on a rope leash. "Mister, they're putting him down, but he remembered you." The grizzled dog nosed his salt-crusted palm. Those eyes held Jonathan's old question. "Name?" Charles unclipped the shelter tag. "Papers say nil." Fingers traced a Tahoe-shaped scar on its withers. "Al. Short and square." While vets processed forms, Charles retrieved Ellen's emergency protocols box. Rescue harness, first aid kit, the works. Dusk found them on the pier. Al gnawed his leash while Charles skipped stones, marking map intersections where microchip coordinates crossed their old sailing routes. A treasure hunter's stamp glittered. Claimed. Ellen's whisper danced in the surf. "Forgive me." Charles shredded her final receipt, tossing confetti skyward. Wind carried fragments toward the lighthouse, flashing 3 short, 3 long, their college SOS signal. "Can't outrun me now, old girl." He scratched Al's ear. "But take your best shot." Freighter horns harmonized with his laugh. Deep in a rusted steamer at Pier 12 slept 99 strays. First arrivals for Astoria's new shelter. The first frost had painted the Columbia River shoreline with delicate ice filigree. Charles trudged along the docks, feeling Elle strain against her leash toward a weathered warehouse door. Inside, the air tasted of oxidized metal and forgotten years. Crates marked CJ stacked precariously to the ceiling. "Damn near like our attic back home," he muttered, slicing open a top box with his buck knife. A dust plume erupted, sending him fumbling for his inhaler. Flickering fluorescent light revealed the hall. Ship's logs, rusted key rings, and a medical folder. His chest tightened at the familiar cursive on its cover. "A captain's failings," Elle whimpered, nosing a photo at the crate's bottom. Young Helen stood triumphant at a cabin cruiser's helm, cradling a collie pup mirroring their first pet. The reverse read, April 18, 1983. beside a crimson stamp. Archival storage, open upon mission completion. What damn mission? Charles collapsed onto a crate, old injuries throbbing in time with river currents. Footfalls echoed behind him. Sergeant Hayes shifted uncomfortably, crumpling a Gazette Tribune in his grip. Figured you'd want to see this. Page 3 blared, Environmental Coalition demands riverfront blight removal. Their Craftsman cottage glared beneath the headline, Ecological Hazard. Helen purchased through a shell company, the sergeant mumbled. Now the EPA's found violations. A falling jerry can shattered the silence. Charles shoveled documents into his duffel. She's rigged traps everywhere, even now. The demolition site resembled Gettysburg reenactment. Bulldozers gnawed a neighboring boathouse as Charles stormed City Hall. A planning department stiff jabbed at topographic maps. You've encroached on salmon-protected zones. Full demolition must... My wife built this, not me. Joint ownership since 2019, per records. A coffee stain bloomed across blueprints like blood on gauze. Charles produced the captain's failings folder, dropping a photo album. Their 1985 lighthouse snapshot skittered across linoleum, the Java splotch aligning perfectly with a restricted zone. She accounted for everything, he whispered, tracing contours. Even my damn Starbucks spill. Icy wind howled through the workshop's cracked pane. Charles pried open the emergency kit crate. Beneath sterile wraps lay an envelope of artemisia seeds, the weed Helen used for his childhood asthma. Planting instructions read, West wall border, smoke suppression. Had to micromanage the weather, too? Seeds scattered as the realtor's call blared. The bank threatened account seizure over EPA fines. L rooted through ship logs, unearthing a moleskin. Charles smoothed crumpled pages. 6/18/20-20, CT shows Mets. If Charlie knows, he'll abandon Astoria for hospice. Seattle clinical trials too late. Let him hate my lies rather than die trying. An icy finger traced his spine. He remembered her midnight coughs, dismissed as allergies. Empty vitamin bottles in recycling. Screeching brakes shattered the memory. An ecology department truck disgorged orange-vested workers. The foreman waved condemnation papers. 72 hours for unlawful structure removal. His hand-carved bench exploded under sledgehammers. Photo-clad planks fed bonfire sparks rising to meet Orion. L cowered behind rain barrels, howling like that stormy night with Jonathan. Enough! Charles hurled lumber through the workshop window. Shards baptized the seafarer model. Countless matchsticks Helen glued, now scattered, forming arcane coastline patterns. What else did you bury? He stomped the mosaic. A crack, frozen mid-crunch. Floorboards gaped, revealing a military case. Familiar coordinates, 46 to 11, 21, and gleamed beneath grime. Inside lay yacht keys in a brine-stained envelope. If reading Hiram's ravings were true. Meet at lighthouse on full moon, no goodbyes. H. His heart misfired like a flooded outboard. Charles recalled the town loon's captain's curse rants. Hiram had whispered to Helen's casket at graveside. The lighthouse stood bone-white under lunar glare. L growled at decay's scent. Hinges screamed, revealing spiral stairs with humming railings. She's here, Charles breathed, climbing toward strobing navigation lights. A silhouette loomed above. Hiram's rain-slick poncho rustled as he stuffed charred photos into burlap. Hands off! Charles lunged, tripping over love letter crates. The hermit turned, revealing H+C tattooed on his wattled neck. Expired 7 years too late. A Seattle Maritime Clinic photo slipped from the sack, Helen's IV-pierced hand clutching 4 Charlie stationery. Hiram cackled, showering insurance documents. Paid my silence with your soul's tab. A $500K life insurance policy fluttered down. Death must occur within primary residence. Helen smirked from notarized paperwork dated March 15, 2020, 3 weeks pre-COVID lockdown. Charles's wheeze became a wounded roar. He gripped rails as Hiram torched the mail sack. Elle charged, upending a linseed oil drum. Flames raced downstairs, devouring X-rays and ship manifests. Charles crawled backward, tucking yelping Elle underarm. The concussion of Helen's antique flare gun collection plunged into icy surf. At dawn, Sergeant Hayes found them on scorched docks. Elle licked soot-streaked tears as Charles stared at the lighthouse. "Why 3 flashes?" He pointed weakly. "Our code, triple pulse, means danger imminent." Waterlogged debris swirled a 1983 photo. Helen's back script gleamed. "Only path to save us both." The Amana fridge groaned as Charles flushed pills down the drain. Red tablets dissolved like blood droplets. Metallica's "Ride the Lightning" blared. He couldn't muster energy to switch to NPR. A U-Haul's grating wheels broke the night. Some shelter kid loaded remnant boxes. "Director says demolition's done. You get converted janitor quarters." So my mooring's another shipwreck? The Our River Journey album lay open to a missing page. Charles suddenly knew where to hunt the torn entry. The 1992 River Authority office where he'd worked post-father's funeral. Helen had refused relocation, calling it Dreamer's Prison. The flip side showed promotion congratulations signed by a Seattle clinic HR rep. A powdered donut-munching clerk produced Water Department records. "Your wife requested your 2015-2020 physicals, paid all high-pay violation fines herself." Diagnoses bled with Helen's notes. Asthma, controlled, cardiac, monitor. The finale. Astoria relocation order stamped priority, critical habitat synergy. Rain lashed the Volvo's roof as Charles raced to Junction 12. His old Chris craft awaited under mildewed canvas. Helen's coordinates traced their 1976 maiden voyage route. Elle whined against his leg, sensing squall's approach. The fish finder beeped shallow warnings. Charles hit the spotlight, illuminating a buoy with fading H&C lettering. Submerged crates materialized. The first held anniversary pendants and miscarriage records. The second contained morphine vials and a note. "They said you wouldn't survive another Sacramento infarction. Forgive my choosing you over our child. If our photos sold, I've won. Trapped souls insure each other. Your selfish lover." The squall capsized the craft. An ice chunk cracked his skull as Charles grabbed the captain's ring buoy. Elle breached nearby, chomping his parka toward freighter lights on the horizon. The waves slammed against the rescue boat hull, spraying salt water across the deck. Charlie gasped sharply, feeling Elle tremble under his palm through the lab's damp fur. A freighter's lights blinked in the distance like forgotten morning stars. "Stay with me, boy," he rasped, wrapping the dog's bleeding paw with his tattered flannel shirt. The seal skin tangled in the propeller still carried Ellen's white linen perfume, that god-awful Estee Lauder scent she'd loved despite how it aggravated his asthma. Currents rolled the miscarriage date pendant beneath his boots. And suddenly, Charlie understood. This was no accident. She'd left breadcrumbs like in those Mary Higgins Clark paperbacks they'd read aloud during nor'easters. The whump-whump of Coast Guard chopper blades made him look up. A rescuer shouted about hypothermia while rappelling down. Charlie's hand slid under the bench, finding the waterproof pouch with Ellen's letter. His fingers brushed the morphine vial, the same one he'd found hidden in their tackle box. "Our final voyage, huh?" he whispered, tracing the embroidered E+C on the sealskin. The hospital reeked of antiseptic and broken promises. Charlie lay listening to Elle's whines outside his room. The nurse threatened to call security, but left the door cracked. "It's hyperventilation, Mr. Jackson." The doctor tapped his X-ray with a BIC pen. "Lungs look like dish rags after a hurricane. I'm restricting my sailing privileges." Charlie gripped the IV pole to sit up. "That ship sailed long ago." The rustle of damp paperwork made him turn. Sergeant Hayes twirled a warped case file. "Hiram survived. Says Ellen paid his chemo bills back in 2018. Found him dockside when she needed a fake notary for the insurance scam." Charlie touched his wrist burn, an exact match to their wedding album's spine pattern. "She plotted my escape route, even from the grave." The sergeant nodded, dropping rusted warehouse keys. "Her last gift, insurance voided, Enviro saved the house, turned it into an immigrant hub. Your cut's 30% of profits." Elle leapt onto the bed, licking away tears Charlie refused to shed. The dog dropped an eBay printout. Astoria Maritime Museum paid 5 kells for their last couple's photo. Sunset painted the crane hoisting a corroded crate from the bay. Charlie stood dockside clutching the morphine vial, wind flipping his captain's log open to their wedding date. "What were you saying, Ellie?" He lifted the charred Polaroid of them laughing by the capsized skiff. The warehouse door creaked. Flashlight beams revealed regiments of wormwood seed jars, each labeled Plant West Facing. Their 2015 anniversary portrait hung lopsided, the one Ellen supposedly sold at auction. "She bought it back," Charlie whispered, squinting at the antique dealer's receipt. "Took a second mortgage to keep our ghosts." Elle nudged him toward a tarp-covered shape. Charlie yanked the rope. The Ellen II emerged, christened with a galley postcard. "Clean slate, Captain. Logbooks in your chest." E. Below decks waited 47 letters, one for each marriage year. Ellen had written them on their meet-iversary but never mailed. The last envelope bore an anchor wax seal. "Forgive the lies. Count our sparks." The museum curator found him sorting seeds days later. Charlie portioned them into mason jars, humming Spanish ladies. "Docs say I should baby these lungs," he coughed, handing over Columbia River cruise plans. "Gonna teach diabetics to test blood sugar through salmon tears." "Trick is," Elle's growl interrupted, dragging him to a 3-legged dachshund named Jasmine. The vet shook her head. "Previous owner left a note. Mission accomplished." "Don't suppose?" Charlie pulled out the E+C 1977-2023 pendant. "Ships should bear the navigator's name. Apply it toward her pension." Moonlight found him at Ellen's new grave, a wormwood mound by the boathouse west wall. Elle placed a sea-glass chunk among the roots. The Ellen II bobbed ready, rigging, singing. "Starting the timber grove tomorrow." Charlie scratched the lab's graying muzzle. "1 pine for every photo I sold. If we live to see Christmas lights in those branches, we'll toast that schemin' old dame." The phone gathered dust for 3 days before he dialed his niece. Her voice mirrored Ellen's stubborn lilt. "Uncle? Mom said you'd never—" Call. She was smarter. How about Christmas with a senile shipwright running a canine flophouse? Elle barked approval, knocking over a nail jar. Charlie laughed properly for the first time in years, chest pain dissolving in brine-scented air. Twilight found man and dog on the pier, hauling gull feed in a radio flyer. Ellen's final photo soared seaward, caught in a gust bearing her sharp handwriting. Come ashore. Home, he realized, lived wherever hearts learned forgiveness.